Hi, so for my second video today, I thought I'd talk about something related to art and writing and just creativity in general, and that is dealing with rejection. And to me, dealing with rejection is one of the hardest parts of being an artist and a writer. Um, I had an extremely hard time with it at first when I really got into it. Like every time I would get a review that wasn't like 100%, this is awesome, I love your book or whatever, I'd feel really down inside and I'd feel like, I was a failure and I just wasn't good enough. And I'm a perfectionist by nature, which makes it hard because when I write a book or make art or whatever, I try to do the best I can and I try to make it the best I can make it. So when I'm finished with it and I put it out, if other people don't think it's my best work or whatever, that really can hit me hard. And, I feel partly I feel, like a failure or like I'm just no good. And, all these thoughts start coming in my head that, I'm never gonna succeed and I'm never gonna be good enough and all that stuff. And like I said, that was a lot worse when I first started doing it. Now it's gotten kind of better. Like if I get a bad review of a book or something, I can brush that off a little bit easier now. I've kind of learned to look at it like, well, everybody has their own taste, and not everything that I create is going to be something that everybody's going to like. And that's just the truth no matter what I did. It wouldn't matter what kind of artist or writer I was. There's going to be some people who don't like my stuff. And that's true for anybody who creates anything. There's going to be people who don't like your stuff. But there's also going to be people who do like your stuff. And so, as far as dealing with rejection, my plan, I guess, kind of is first of all, I try to focus on those who do like my stuff. And I do this partly because, first of all, they're my fan base. So if I want to make anybody happy, it should be the people who really support me and, who are always there for me and, that I really appreciate. So I try to concentrate on them. And like if I get a bad review and it really bums me out or I feel kind of like it's unfair or whatever, sometimes I'll read like other reviews that were really positive just to kind of, even my feelings out and say, well, yeah, they didn't like it, but, look at this person, they loved it. So that kind of helps dealing with rejection if when you hear something bad, you look to others who have said good things. And another issue with rejection is that sometimes it comes from our peers, like other writers, artists, stuff. And I've had other writers who, didn't particularly like a book I wrote, or whenever I post poetry, there's always the chance that someone's going to be, like, you should change this, or you should do that, or I think it'd be better this way, or I don't like this about it. And to a certain extent, that can be useful. There have been times when people said things to me about my poetry or my writing, and I looked at it and I saw they were right, and so I changed it. But I've also had to learn that that's not always the case. Sometimes people are wrong, or at least their recommendations don't work for me and the kind of writing that I want to put out there or the kind of art I want to put out there. And so I've had to learn just to, listen to them, try to take constructive criticism if I can. If there's things that I really agree with, try to change it or work with it or learn from it. But, you have to get to a point where you don't let other people determine your worth as an artist. Because if you do, you're always going to be miserable and feeling like you're never good enough and all that kind of stuff. And personally, lately, since I've been concentrating a lot kind of in a poetry direction with my writing, and my poetry is not necessarily like, it's definitely not classical poetry most of the time. A lot of what I write is free verse, and I tend to like poetry that has kind of a prose storytelling style to it. I think that's why I love novels in verse, and I like the beat poets and I like the slam poets and things like that. And that's not for everybody. And especially a lot of like old-fashioned classical poets or people who are into that kind of poetry, they tend to look down on people like me who write stuff that isn't like they think poetry should be. And I've kind of had to realize that, that's okay that they feel differently about everything, and, that they like old fashioned kind of poetry. That doesn't mean, anything bad about them or anything bad about me. It's just, differences of opinion. And I've also come to realize that the people who we really remember in any art form are those who came and did something new or different. And almost every time someone does something new or different, they're made fun of, they're mocked, they're told that, what they're making isn't real art. You know, anytime someone is kind of ahead of their time, they're misunderstood, they're looked down on. And then someday, in the future, usually, they're finally seen for, the creative um, kind of, I don't want to say geniuses, but they're seen as really creative trailblazers, I guess. And you have to realize that if you want to do something unique and different, which is really kind of what I want to be unique and different. I don't want to be like everybody else. But I have to realize that by choosing to be unique and different, I'm going to invite a lot of criticism. I'm going to irritate people who want things to stay the way they've always been, or who, like the way they've always been. And I have to learn to live with that. And so if you're dealing with rejection in art or writing or music or any kind of creative field like that, you have to think about that sometimes you have to deal with criticism now in order to get your art or writing or music out there to people. So it's kind of a trade-off, and you're never going to make everybody happy. But as long as you're making some people happy and you're making yourself happy, I think that's what's most important. So that's kind of my thoughts on rejection in the creative fields or whatever. So if you guys happen to struggle with rejection in some kind of creative field, feel free to comment and kind of tell your story, or tell me what you think about rejection and how it's best to deal with it. And I appreciate all of you watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. So thanks. Bye.